Keanu Reeves strolled into a cozy bookstore, looking for a quiet moment away from the spotlight, when he noticed a black woman at the counter, speaking softly to the owner. She held a stack of books, their spines worn but clearly cherished, and her voice wavered as she explained she needed to sell them to cover her bills. Intrigued, Keanu approached and asked about her story. What he learned, a tale of unjust loss, resilience, and unwavering hope, moved him to take action in a way that would change her life forever. Keanu Reeves stepped into the quiet bookstore, the warm scent of paper and ink wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. It was the kind of place he loved, peaceful, unassuming, and filled with stories waiting to be discovered. As he wandered between the shelves, his attention was drawn to a conversation at the counter. A woman stood there, holding a small stack of well-worn books. Her posture was proud, but there was a tremor in her voice as she spoke to the store owner. "I'm sorry to let these go," she said softly, "but I don't have a choice right now. They mean a lot to me." The owner nodded sympathetically but glanced at the books with a mix of regret and practicality. "I can't offer much for them," he said, "but I'll take what I can." Keanu, intrigued by the exchange, stepped closer. He noticed the care with which the woman handled the books, as if they were pieces of her soul. Her clothes were neat but modest, and there was a determination in her eyes that hinted at a deeper story. "Excuse me," Keanu said gently, his presence immediately drawing the attention of both the woman and the owner. "I couldn't help overhearing. May I ask why you're selling these?" The woman hesitated, clutching the books tightly. "It's a long story," she said, her voice trembling. Keanu offered a kind smile. "I've got time," he said, "and I'd really like to hear it." Lisa hesitated for a moment, looking down at the stack of books she held as though searching for the strength to speak. Finally, she sighed and began her story, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry her words. "I've been a teacher for over a decade," she said. "It's what I've always wanted to do, help kids discover their potential, especially those who don't think they have any. I worked in schools that most people avoided, in neighborhoods where the resources were scarce, but the kids were full of promise. They just needed someone to believe in them." She paused, her fingers tracing the worn edges of one of the books in her hands. "I loved my job," she continued. "Every day, I woke up excited to be in the classroom, to connect with my students. I wasn't just teaching math or history, I was teaching them how to dream, how to believe in themselves. And they were incredible. I saw kids who thought they'd never graduate go on to college, kids who thought they couldn't read finish their first novel. That was my reward." Keanu nodded, his expression attentive and empathetic. "So, what happened?" he asked gently. Lisa's face fell, her voice growing quieter. "A few months ago, everything changed. One of my students, a bright, talented kid, was acting out in class. I had to discipline him, like I would any student. It wasn't harsh, just a reminder that his behavior wasn't acceptable. But his parents, they didn't take it well. They were wealthy, influential, and used to getting their way. They complained to the school board, twisting the story to make it sound like I had targeted their child unfairly." Her voice cracked, but she pressed on. "I thought the truth would come out, that the board would see my record and know I would never treat a student unfairly. But they didn't. They just let me go. No explanation, no chance to defend myself. It was like all those years of hard work meant nothing." Keanu's jaw tightened, his fists clenching slightly at his sides. "That's wrong," he said firmly. "You deserve better." Lisa gave a bitter laugh. "Maybe," she said. "But in their eyes, I was replaceable. Just another teacher they could discard. After that, it was like a chain reaction. Word got out, and no other school wanted to hire me. I applied everywhere, even outside of teaching, but no one would take me. The only thing I had left were my books." She held the stack of books closer to her chest, her gaze softening. "These were my treasures. They were in my classroom, on my desk, used to inspire my students. Every one of these books has a story behind it, Some of them were donated by former students, others were gifts from colleagues who believed in what I was doing. Selling them is like giving away pieces of myself, but I don't have a choice. I need the money to keep a roof over my head. Keanu noticed her grip tighten on the books, as if letting them go would break something inside her. You shouldn't have to sell these, he said softly. They're part of who you are. Lisa shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. I don't have a choice, she whispered. I've tried everything, but no one's willing to give me a chance. And I've thought about doing something on my own, a learning center for kids who need a place to go, a place where they can feel seen and valued. But that's just a dream. I can barely pay my rent, let alone start something like that. Keanu's eyes lit up as he leaned slightly closer. A learning center, he repeated. That's not just a dream, it's a vision. And visions are worth fighting for. Lisa looked at him skeptically. It's not realistic, she said. I don't have the money, the resources, or even the energy to think about starting something like that. It's just a fantasy I hold onto to keep myself from falling apart. Keanu smiled gently. Sometimes, fantasies are just dreams waiting for the right person to believe in them, he said. And from what I'm hearing, you've already done so much for others. Maybe it's time someone believed in you. Lisa blinked, clearly caught off guard by his words. Why do you care? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Because I see someone who's been knocked down but hasn't given up, Keanu said. And that kind of strength deserves a second chance. Lisa's lip quivered as she tried to respond, but no words came out. Instead, she clutched her books tighter, as though holding onto the possibility of hope for the first time in months. Keanu leaned against the counter, his eyes scanning the stack of books Lisa held as if they were precious artifacts. I'll buy these, he said, his voice calm but purposeful. Lisa blinked, her brow furrowing. You don't have to do that, she said quickly. I mean, I appreciate it, but I wasn't trying to guilt anyone into. I'm not buying them to take them away from you, Keanu interrupted gently. I'm buying them so you can keep them. They're part of your story, and they belong with you. Lisa's hands tightened around the books, her confusion evident. I don't understand, she said hesitantly. Why would you do that? Keanu smiled faintly. Because these books aren't just objects, they're tools, he said. And I think they're going to play a big part in your future. You said you wanted to start a learning center, right? Lisa nodded slowly. I've thought about it, she admitted. But it's just a dream. I don't have the money, the resources, or even the space to make it happen. Keanu's smile widened. Dreams have a way of becoming reality when the right people get involved, he said. Let's make it happen. Lisa stared at him, her disbelief evident. You're serious? She asked. Completely, Keanu replied. You've already done the hardest part. You've given everything to help others, even when it cost you everything. Now it's time for someone to give back to you. Before Lisa could protest, Keanu began asking questions. What kind of space would you need? He asked. Something small, right? Enough for a few tables, shelves for books, and room for kids to learn? Lisa hesitated, her mind racing. I guess so, she said. But even that would be expensive. And then there's supplies, utilities, furniture. Keanu nodded, his expression thoughtful. Leave that to me, he said. I'll handle the setup, you focus on getting ready to teach again. Lisa's eyes widened, her voice trembling. You'd really do that for me? Of course, Keanu said simply. You've already proven how much you care about helping kids. I'm just giving you the tools to keep doing what you love. Over the next few days, Keanu set his plan into motion. He contacted local real estate agents to find a small, affordable space that could be transformed into a learning center. After some searching, they found a modest but welcoming building near a community park, a perfect location for students to gather. Keanu didn't stop there. He reached out to his network of friends and colleagues, rallying support from educational organizations, local businesses, and even a few fans who were eager to help once they heard about Lisa's story. Supplies began pouring in: desks, chairs, whiteboards, art materials, and shelves for Lisa's cherished books. Volunteers arrived to clean and paint the space, turning the once empty room into a vibrant, inspiring hub for learning. Lisa watched the transformation in awe, her emotions swinging between disbelief and gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you," she told Keanu one afternoon as they unpacked donated supplies. "I never thought something like this would actually happen." Keanu paused, looking at her with a quiet intensity. "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank yourself. You had the courage to dream, even when the world made it hard. All I did was help you bring it to life." As the opening day approached, Keanu continued to support Lisa in every way possible. He helped her spread the word about the Learning Center, contacting local schools and community leaders to ensure that kids in need would know about the new resource. He even arranged for a few high-profile friends to donate laptops and tablets, ensuring that the center would have access to modern technology. Lisa spent late nights preparing lesson plans and organizing the books she had almost sold, her passion reigniting with every moment. For the first time in months, she felt like her purpose had returned. One evening, as they finished setting up the final bookshelf, Lisa turned to Keanu, her eyes glistening. "You've done so much for me," she said softly. "Why? You didn't have to go this far." Keanu leaned against the wall, his expression thoughtful. "Because I believe in what you're doing," he said. "And because the world needs more people like you who care about making a difference." Lisa smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You've changed my life," she said. Keanu shook his head. "No," he replied. "You changed it yourself. I just gave you a little push." As they locked up the center for the night, Lisa couldn't help but feel a newfound sense of hope and determination. With Keanu's support and her own relentless spirit, she knew the Learning Center would become everything she had dreamed, and more. The transformation of the Learning Center was nothing short of remarkable. What had once been an empty, neglected building now radiated warmth and inspiration. The walls were painted in cheerful colors, adorned with posters of historical figures, scientific discoveries, and motivational quotes. Shelves filled with books lined the walls, many of them from Lisa's cherished collection. Keanu stood in the center of the room, watching as volunteers assembled desks and chairs, carefully arranging them into neat rows. Lisa was at the far end, sorting through art supplies that had been donated by a local craft store. She moved with a sense of purpose that hadn't been there before, her passion reigniting with each passing moment. "This place is really coming together," Keanu said, walking over to her. Lisa looked up, her face lighting up with a smile. "I still can't believe it," she said. "Every time I look around, it feels like a dream." Keanu chuckled. "It's a dream you made real," he said. "You're the one who inspired all of this." Lisa shook her head, glancing at the bustling volunteers. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. "You gave me the chance to believe in myself again." Keanu's smile softened. "You always had it in you," he said. "Sometimes, people just need someone to remind them of their own strength." As the final touches were added, Lisa took a step back to admire the space. There were tables for group projects, a corner dedicated to reading with beanbags and pillows, and even a small section for science experiments. Each area had been carefully planned to foster creativity and learning. "Do you think the kids will like it?" Lisa asked, her voice tinged with nervous excitement. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "They're going to love it," he said. "And they're going to love you even more for giving them this opportunity." Opening day arrived quickly, and the Learning Center buzzed with anticipation. Flyers had been distributed throughout the neighborhood, and word of mouth had spread the news to parents and students alike. As the first families began to arrive, Lisa greeted them at the door, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. Children's eyes lit up as they stepped inside, taking in the vibrant space filled with books, art supplies, and educational games. A little boy ran up to one of the shelves and pulled down a book about space exploration. "Can I read this?" he asked eagerly. "Of course," Lisa replied, her smile widening. "That's what it's here for." Parents approached her, shaking her hand and expressing their gratitude. "Thank you for doing this," one mother said, her voice filled with emotion. "There aren't many places like this around here. You're giving our kids something so special." Keanu, standing quietly in the background, watched the scene unfold with a sense of pride. He had wanted to help Lisa, but seeing the impact of her work on the community made him realize just how powerful her vision was. As the day went on, Lisa led a group of children in a storytelling activity, encouraging them to write and share their own short tales. The room buzzed with creativity, the sound of laughter and enthusiastic chatter filling the air. At one point, Lisa glanced over at Keanu, who had taken a seat near the reading corner. He was surrounded by a small group of children, animatedly reading aloud from a book about adventure. The kids hung on his every word, their faces lighting up as he brought the story to life. Lisa couldn't help but smile. This was everything she had dreamed of, and more. As the event wound down, parents and children began to trickle out, many of them stopping to thank Lisa and Keanu on their way. One little girl, clutching a picture she had drawn during an art activity, ran up to Lisa and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Miss Lisa," she said. "I can't wait to come back tomorrow." Lisa's heart swelled with emotion as she returned the hug. "I'll be here," she promised. Keanu walked over, his expression warm. "See," he said. "I told you they'd love it." Lisa laughed softly, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I don't think I've ever felt this happy," she admitted. "You deserve it," Keanu replied. "And this is just the beginning." As they locked up the center for the night, Lisa turned to Keanu, her gratitude evident. "You've done so much for me," she said. "I don't even know how to thank you." Keanu smiled. "You already have," he said. "Every smile, every laugh from those kids today, that's thanks enough." Lisa nodded, her heart full as she looked back at the center. It wasn't just a building. It was a place of hope, of growth, and of dreams made real. News of Lisa's learning center spread quickly, with local media picking up the story. Donations began to pour in from people inspired by her resilience and Keanu's generosity. Other teachers who had faced similar challenges reached out, asking how they could help or replicate her model in their own communities. Lisa's story became a symbol of hope, showing that even when the odds seem insurmountable, there are always people willing to lend a hand. Keanu visited the center often, offering encouragement and quietly ensuring that Lisa had everything she needed to succeed. "This isn't just your dream anymore," he told her one day. "It's a dream for the whole community." The Learning Center thrived, becoming a beacon of hope for both students and teachers. Lisa's journey, once marked by injustice and struggle, had transformed into a story of resilience and triumph. For Keanu, it wasn't about recognition or praise. It was about making a difference, one person at a time. And for Lisa, it was a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's always a light waiting to guide you forward.